Hello everyone, this is Phil from OneModel, and in this video I want to give you an introductory tour to the OneModel People Analytics platform. We'll cover some of the big pieces, we'll cover some of the cool features our team has been working on, and then most importantly, I want to leave you with a sense of how all of those pieces come together. That's the critical thing to see. OneModel is a complete solution for people analytics. Everything from ingesting data to delivering an insight to an end user. And in that way, it really is more than the sum of its parts. It's everything you need in one place so that you can deliver on people analytics. So let's take a look around. If you look at my screen, we are logged into OneModel, so welcome to OneModel. And I'm going to start by giving you a bit of navigation about what's going on the screen. So first and foremost, I've logged in, and I'm looking at a storyboard in OneModel. So occupying the main portion of the screen here, we have a storyboard, and that storyboard is a collection of tiles. So each of those squares or rectangles on the page, and those tiles have information for me in the form of text boxes, we have links, and then of course we have data and visualizations as well. Above that, we have filters. So as a user, I can narrow my analysis down into just the groups I'm interested in looking at. And then finally above that, we have our navigation bar. And you'll see me go through a few different areas of the tool as we run through the demo today. I have Explore, where I can build visualizations. I have my storyboard library, where I can see all of the content that either I've created or people have shared with me. I have Data, which contains a bunch of features for data modeling, for building predictive models, for seeing how my data loaded and how it ingested. And then I have admin features for doing user security as well. So we'll take you through most of that. But to get started, let's just scroll down this first storyboard. So again, this is the homepage in this demo site. It's demo data, but it's kind of a special homepage. What I've tried to do is give you a nice representative sample of some of the cool things you can do within OneModel. In the first few tiles, I want you to see that, of course, OneModel is about data analysis and data visualization. So I've got an overall headcount number, I've got trend data, and then I've got data broken out, sliced and diced, if you like, in this case by pay grade and by diversity information as well. So we're going to take your data, we're going to organize it so it's ready to do analytics like this. Now, as we go down the page, things get a bit more interesting. The next one, this table you're looking at where we have some conditional formatting, what's going on there is I'm connecting multiple systems together. So it's interesting to see my headcount overall. It's also more interesting to see my headcount broken out by things that might be outside of my core HR system. I might have a different application for recruiting, and in that case, I've now joined data from two different systems and I can see my headcount based on where they were recruited from. And then that becomes even more interesting if I can connect it to performance data or engagement data, which might be in yet another system. And so to simulate that, we've created this crosstab view here. We've done some conditional highlighting on it. Now I can see my headcount based on where I recruited them, and then also what their performance was like. All right. And that's great, and I can highlight some data in those tables. But now as we move down the page, we want to move into some more advanced ways of getting insights out of that underlying data. So here I have a scatter plot set up with a light bulb on it. We're going to get to that in a second. And then next door to that, we have predicted risk of attrition, which is, of course, the sort of thing that's on your people analytics roadmap. And we're going to show you how we tackle problems like that in a very detailed and interesting way. So let's start with the tile on the left. As a user, I'm looking at some data here. I've got a scatter plot. In this case, I'm looking at tenure in years on my x-axis, and then I'm looking at compensation on my y-axis. And I might be doing some research into thinking, okay, is there a relationship between salary or in between tenure and salary? And if I want to test that out, I can just click on this light bulb. This is an embedded insight. I can draw a line of best fit on that data, and I see that it is going up a little bit. And then I can run correlations on that as well. So it'll actually, OneModel will do some statistics for me It'll tell me, in this case, there actually isn't a statistically significant relationship. So it's actually good. I could see the line going up, but this is also telling me, hey, you don't have enough data yet to really make a conclusion about this. And if for some reason you're suspicious about that, and we actually encourage you to be suspicious about this sort of thing, I've got this information bubble right here, and I can click in and learn everything about how that correlation was done, the p-value. I can get reminded what a p-value is and all of that. And I went into some detail there because I do want you to see that we are incredibly transparent about what we're doing with your data. If we reach a conclusion, we want to show you all the work behind it. We also want to give you the ability to make your own choices about that too. So it is everything you need in one platform, but that platform is flexible and open, so we can adapt it to what you need to do as an organization. All right, enough about that. Again, next door to that, we have predicted attrition risk by role. This is a little bit of foreshadowing for our demo. At the end of this demo, I'm going to go into our machine learning tool set. And what I want you to see there is that all of the statistics behind this model are available to you, and you can actually make changes to your own predictive models as well. The reason that is so important is that you cannot trust a model if you can't see the performance behind it and you can't see how that model was created. So you shouldn't listen to people who say, oh, we've run 1 million data points and we have the world's best model for predicting XYZ. You need to be able to see behind it, and I'm going to show you that as we go through the demo today. Everything in one model you can take apart for yourself and understand how it works. All right, so you can get into the data science, you can run statistics. You know, the other thing you need to do is really get your users' attention. You need to give them compelling visualizations, and so we're doing that as well. We have organizational charts. You can visualize your data, but on an org chart. And that's helps your users digest it a little bit faster. You could see, you know, female representation. You could see engagement, but in your hierarchy structure instead of in a table. And then next to that, we have map widgets as well. You know, as things happen around the world, you want to know where your employees are, and you want to be able to visualize that in a compelling way as well. So we did some analytic data. We connected data from multiple systems. We built data science models on top of that. We ran statistics, presented it in a compelling way. Now, of course, our users have to do something. They have to take some action. And that's where we want to close the loop as well. So here I have a really simple table set up. But what I've put on this table is a feature called deep linking. So that means at the end of the day, I can take rows of data in one model and I can hyperlink them back into the system of record. So I can make it so that if I click on, you know, Felix here, when I click on it, maybe it takes me back to Workday or SuccessFactors where I can actually do something with the information I'm seeing. So we want to close that loop. Analytics is about making decisions and taking action, not just visualizations. All right, so now as promised, I want to start taking you a few layers deeper in the tool. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and we'll kind of move into, you know, what I like to call the onion demo, where we're going to peel back the layers as we go through one model, because you saw how it all comes together. Now I want to show you what pieces make that up. I like to start here. I like to click on the 39,000 here. Because when I click in on it, what I can see is the definition of that metric, and I can see the detailed data behind it. And this is important for a couple of reasons. One of those is that to deliver analytics at scale and to deliver analytics in a way that's useful to your organization, you have to arrive at some standards about how you're going to measure things. It does you no good to deliver insights if your methods change every report. If you have just, you know, random calculations in reports for who's included in headcount or who's not. One model allows you to create a curated metric library. We have a bunch of metrics to get you started, but then you're in control of how they're calculated and what your users see. And in this case, I wanted you to see the definition too. So we're saying this is employee count. It excludes contractors. It's not FTE. We want to clarify everything for our users, and then where appropriate, show people the underlying details so they can understand it for themselves. And then the second part of why this is important is it gives you a sense of then how we can secure the data. So some users shouldn't see the underlying detail. Some users should only see it for certain metrics. And then other people might see it, but not see something like annual salary. And we give you the security framework to set all those rules up and really make it your own. So we're starting to get now into the data a little bit more. We're also starting to get into some of the things that become tricky about rolling out analytics. So that's drill to detail. I like to call that out front and center. The next thing I want to show you is, how do we get started? I mentioned a moment ago, we have out-of-the-box metrics to get you going on how you might want to visualize, or how you want to report on headcount, turnover, promotion rates, and things like that. Now, the other thing is we have some out-of-the-box visualizations. So as we pull data from your core HR system, we can show you headcount from that system, termination rate, promotion rate, pay, diversity, span of control, service tenure, and we kind of give you a pattern to get started. Here's the big picture number, here's how that number is trending, and then here's how it's broken out for your organization as well. So you can see where it's high, where it's low, for example. And then each of these views allows you to step down a little bit more deeply into it. So let's go into turnover rate as well. And we can see how turnover is trending. It's really interesting. It looks like we've solved for turnover rate in January. And this is demo data again, so we could poke around and see what's going on there. But I can see my overall trend. I can see how turnover is broken out. And then the thing that happens immediately, as soon as you roll any content out to your users, is they say, well, I want to change that. I don't want to look at it like this. I want you to show me some other way. And if you have a really brittle solution or rigid solution, then you're stuck. You have to just convince them to look at it your way. And we don't want you to have to do that. And we don't want to do that. So let's make some changes to this storyboard. I'll go up to the top. I'll click on the pencil first. And here what I want you to see is that everything is flexible. So I can rearrange tiles. If I want to adjust this visualization, I can click on the design palette here. Maybe we don't want to look at this as a line. We want to look at it as a column chart. That's great. We'll look at it by horizontal rows. It's actually kind of odd with time, but I just want you to see kind of the dynamic nature of how you can adjust these visualizations. So we'll X out of that. And that's one layer of configuration. So I want to change the visualization options. I want to look at it a little bit different way. Maybe I want to adjust the default filters that my users have as well. But then, customization has to go a lot deeper too. And with one model, it goes all the way to the bottom. So let's get out of exit mode. And I don't think I'll save those changes. But let's look at turnover rate by business unit, and let's go a level deeper. Let's go to Explore, which you also saw was a menu option up at the top of the screen. But we'll click into Explore, and let's change this visualization a bit. So we're looking at turnover rate, we're looking at it for last year, and we're looking at it by organization unit. So now what's happening is you're in our visualization workspace. On the left-hand side of the screen, you have all the ingredients that you might want to use in your visualization. So we showed you headcount as a standardized metric. Well, here it is. And here are a bunch of other flavors of headcount as well that I can use. Movement metrics, recruiting metrics, survey metrics. And again, we have some out-of-the-box calculations to get you started. Next, below that, we have our dimensional breakout. So if I want to look at turnover rate by a different way, I can do that. And below that, all of the underlying tables as well. So let me do this. Let me just do a visualization from scratch. So let's look at a blank slate, so to speak, and let's take a look at headcount, because I like headcount. And we'll look at it by time. So here's end of period headcount by year. And then again, let's say someone asked for a different look at headcount. What about headcount by time grouped by tenure? No problem. So we'll go down here to our dimensions. We have employment, and we'll look at organization tenure. We'll break that data out. And, what's going on here, this is a really simple view in a sense, but it also shows you how one model really elegantly handles some of those calculations that come into play when you're doing people analytics. So first off, I've got headcount by end of period. So I've got to look at who's in headcount at the end of each of these years. And I'm doing that for like a dozen years at once. And then I've got these like 30,000 employees, and I will need to see on that day how much tenure did each of them have. And so with our calculation engine, we can do that sort of math really quickly. Can see headcount over time. I've got a kind of busy visualization here for that. Now maybe I'll go back. Let's do this. Let's kind of have a soft spot in my heart for stacked column charts. So we'll do it that way. We can adjust the visualization here. Again, similar to what you saw before. And then if I like this view, I could pin it out to an existing storyboard, or I could pin it out to a new piece of content as well. So what's important about what happened there is that as a user, I could find what I wanted really easily. And then I didn't reinvent my calculations. I didn't decide, hey, today I want tenure to be based on original hire date versus service tenure date or something else. So when I do this view, I'm getting the same answers as if somebody else on my team did the same view or did the same calculations. Now that said, as an organization, you don't want to be trapped with, though, a limited number of metrics. So the next thing I want to show you as we continue to go down through the tool is this create and edit button next to metrics. So again, you're not going to be limited by just the values that we thought of or that we thought were important. So if I click on headcount and I look at end of period headcount, for example, that metric we've been using a bunch in the demo so far, here's the definition. If you want to change it, you can. If you want to make a copy of it and make a slightly different one, you can. If you want to just change the description or how it's displayed or do it based on a rolling number of periods, you can. And you can add to your library. And then you can decide which users have access to those metrics as well. So you get flexibility. You're not completely dependent on us for every little change. And you get control at the same time. Who can use headcount? Who can use time to fill, time to hire in recruiting? And also, this is just to show you how we're kind of continuing to work our way down through the tool. We had content, we adjusted a visualization. Now we're adjusting metrics. We're kind of getting down into the foundations of your analytics program, and you're seeing how all the pieces start to connect together. So we have metric definitions here, but how did we get the underlying data? A lot of times you'd be stuck here. You have to just kind of take our word for it, or this is delivered analytics, this is what you get. With one model, this is my favorite part, you get to break through the floor, so to speak. Go up to data, go to processing scripts. Our head of product always laughs at me because I just love showing this part of the tool off, and it's a bunch of SQL code basically. But it's so important that you see that it's here. So at one model, we build data models so that you can connect data from all these different systems together. And then we show you how those data models work. It's not proprietary. It's not a big secret. We show you how we do it. We let you browse the output. You can even make your own changes to the data if you want to. There's version control. You can look at different definitions. There's validation on it. But most importantly, you can see what we're doing. You can trust what we're doing. You can even export these scripts and save a copy if you need one for audit purposes or something like that. So it's no mystery. We show you how everything comes together. And then the other thing I just have to call out about this is that you're not responsible for writing all of this SQL either. So we have templates for major systems. We do the work of bringing the data together and modeling it, but we want to show our work. And if you do want to, you are able to make changes as well. So this is what creates all those underlying tables that powered my metrics, that powered my visualizations. And this is where we're bringing all your different systems together. Now, we'll kind of back up to the starting point. So we're kind of working our way, down or back through the platform here. Let's go up to data and go up to sources. This is where all your data comes in. So our customers will integrate multiple data sources together. This is the screen where they can configure the schedules, look at which systems they brought in, the structure of that data. We can ingest data through files, automate that over SFTP, and then we have really great connectors built out to the major systems in HR2. SuccessFactors, Oracle, Workday is a major one as well, so we can connect to those APIs, pull the data out, and then layer our modeling over the top and get you going with some of those initial metrics and content. So again, I love that part. That's where the data comes in. That's really building the foundation. I think for today, the main thing is just to see that it's open, it's flexible, you can see what we're doing and we can work on it together, but nothing's hidden from you. All right. Finally, let me go back to, well, on the way, let me click on my storyboard library so you can just get a sense of, the different content that's been shared with me. As a user, you'll be able to see this. And it's a really nice navigation tool within the platform. And what I'm going to do is let's go back to our Welcome to One Model storyboard. We'll go with Tony's version here. And this is where we started. So this is looking at some data. And I told you I was going to come back to predicted risk of attrition by role. This will be sort of the grand finale of the introductory tour because it's going to take us into data science and it's going to take us into building predictive models. Here, the big idea is for so long, people have thought about predictive modeling as this thing that's way out in the future. Once we get our act together, we're going to do predictive modeling. Or people have purchased predictive models that are kind of off the shelf, generic, not specific to their business, and not transparent at all. And we don't want you to be in either of those situations. We want you to be able to build models and lower the cost of iteration on that. We want you to be able to build models that you can invite your data science team, if you have one, to look at and explore with you because they're up to par, they're doing all the right techniques, and they're fully transparent. So start modeling now and don't be stuck with off-the-shelf models. And just to kind of drive that point home, what I want you to see is this is the output. And this is what everybody's going to show you is, look, predicted risk of attrition. We know who's at risk of leaving. This is what I want to show you. And you can, buckle your seatbelt because we're going to go back into our data science area. I'm going to go to data and augmentations. And what's going on in here is every row on this page is its own container for a predictive analytics problem. So everything from what data are we going to bring into the model? How are we going to treat that data? What are we testing? What conditions are we applying? And then every single time we iterated on the model, again, from an auditing perspective, you see all of the past iterations. What did we find? Was it meaningful? Did we deploy it? So you're doing predictive modeling at scale, focused on HR here. And let me go into an example. So here's attrition risk 2022. First thing I want to do is look at runs. And this is where you see that kind of history. Everything we did with the model. When did we deploy it? What did we deploy? So if somebody made a decision last year, say in April, we'll know the specific version of the model that they were looking at when they made that decision. And then you can see the whole history. So we've deployed a version, we've iterated on it. We've even got error handling in here. That's a question that comes up a lot. So kind of across the board, from data coming into the tool to building models, we're going to show errors. We're going to show you what's wrong so we can all diagnose it together. So you see that whole history here. And now let me go into one of these. So I'm going to click on this pending model from Taylor. Taylor's our head of data science. This should be a good one. And what you're seeing is everything that went into that model. In this case, we looked at 106 different columns. So anything we might know about our employees, we looked at what became of each of those fields. So was it included in the model? Was it dropped? If so, why? All of the analysis behind those variables. This gets incredibly detailed. It's an overview demo, so we're not going to dive into all of it here. We show the correlations. You can download those as well. And then I want you to see this. I want you to see the results summary, because our models, again, they're not proprietary. We're going to tell you everything about it. We're going to build models based on your data. We're going to do that efficiently. And then there's nothing hidden. You can see the exact algorithm that we used and every which way we configured that algorithm. So you could even reproduce it yourself if you wanted to. We'll show you what features were important. We'll show you the techniques that we're using to determine what's important. And we'll show you how well the model performed. So you don't roll out a model that isn't valid for your data. And then if you look at all of this and you like what you see, you can deploy the model. If you have some data science training and you want to jump in and reconfigure things a bit, you can absolutely do that as well. So you could see, you know, the different algorithms that are available. You could say, hey, I want to run the model, but I want to add bias detection to make sure I'm not training on a biased data set. You could do upsampling and, decide to handle columns in certain ways. And again, this is a bit more the domain of a data scientist, but again, we want to be fully transparent with everything that we do. If you're not a data scientist, like me, what you might want to do instead, if you were building a new predictive model, is click on the New button. And we have recipes. So you don't have to figure all that stuff out for yourself. You can say, I want to predict attrition. I want to predict promotions. You can actually predict anything in your data. But if I want to predict voluntary attrition, I can just fill out a sort of wizard or interview guide that's going to ask me how I'm thinking about attrition, and I can run the model based upon that. So we're making it accessible. We're making it transparent. We're making it flexible, and we're making it traceable. So you can see what predictions were made over time. If anyone comes back to challenge you with, how a certain model was deployed, you have all that information automatically saved. And so again, that's what's behind, or what should be behind, one of those visualizations when someone says to you, hey, look, we predicted risk of attrition, or we predicted time to fill. All of this should be what you expect them to deliver to prove that their prediction is valid. And I think for now, that leaves you with a kind of a good sense of the overall tool. I'll jump back to a storyboard here. So here's our home screen again. And, that's really how everything comes together. You saw the big pieces, you saw visualizations, we made a visualization. We talked a bit about security, and we can definitely go into a lot of detail about that as well. We then went kind of down through the platform and took the data through all of the processing steps and back to the source system. Then we took a dive into data science. We showed you what should be behind a predictive model that you're using or considering using. So we'll leave it there for today. Those are the big pieces. There's a whole lot more to show, and I'm sure you have lots of questions. So if you do, definitely reach out to us at One Model. We're happy to show you around. We love this sort of thing, and we hope you enjoyed what you saw. Thanks so much.